Okay. So, what is up, YouTube? HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys because we're going to be looking at the last 3 years of Yu-Gi-Oh! For this guy. For the most part, when we're looking at 2016 to pretty much now at the end of 2019, the reason why I broke it up between then and now is because um, of the biggest break between it having to do with Pendulum. And Pendulum, for the most part, was a big aspiration of a lot of the decks that I built at that time. If you really do need a recollection of what it was, for the most part, honestly, I can tell you this. I didn't really play much Yu-Gi-Oh! At that point when the expand between 2000, the end of 2015 till 2017 for the most part, just due to moving situation. Now, looking at the game itself, this is where the peak of being involved with Yu-Gi-Oh was pretty much Pendulum's rise to the occasion. Pendulum, for the most part, in its own, sparked here. Because I'm missing monsters. Oh Lord, I'm missing heroic cards because these monsters also fit um, into the lineup for two particular monsters actually. Um, Assault Halberd and Thousands Blade because yeah, we're going to be talking about Pepe. We're going to be talking about um, Trick Clown. We're going to be talking about all the span of stuff that happened over those years because I did build a good portion of these decks. Actually, I built all of those portions of decks. The only one I didn't build was Dark Pepe or Dank Pepe as they called it, and that was just simply because that was just um, where I was pretty much just falling off the whole pendulum bandwagon, and I went back to just fully playing Harpie and just expanding the horizon that was Harpie. Because I think at that point, Harpie's Featherstorm had just was coming out as well. Um, yeah, Harpie's Featherstorm had just came out 2017. So yeah, I pretty much just expanded through with all of the additional cards added into the game. And I was just really more excited to have a deck that wasn't Harpie that I could expand on, despite the fact most of the channel just wanted to see what Harpies were doing instead of the amount of stuff that I was playing in terms of the competitive scene. So I'm gonna be taking a good look at that, and then by the end of the Pendulum format, I think that was just purely Harpie there, and then whatever I was trying to rebuild in terms of, old deck profiles that got scrapped or they were getting scrapped because I just didn't have enough of the stuff to hold it together. And but that at that time, you seen the aspect of cards coming because the aspect of cards came because well, I had more stuff to get because I had more money to spend. So yeah, with the aspect of it, I mean, we can look at it now from the aspects of the pendulums and the pendulum stuff that I said because the pendulum era at that point started off with just simple Clown Blade. The only monsters that are not here are both Performer Pal, Skullcrow Bat Joker, Performer Pal Monkey Board, um, the aspects of um, Magispector Unicorn, who couldn't be here because of the fact that most of that stuff, actually, no, we can do that now. Was that Monsters, Pendulum, heck, because we can include them. Oh, and then Band. So we can actually include, yeah, the good portion of the Pendulum stuff that got banned over the time facts were actually these six cards who enhanced the gameplay that was Pendulum and that enhanced the gameplay when Pendulum switched from just pure Pendulum to incorporating Link monsters who were coming in at the time because the game itself was switching from Pendulum to Link. The switch over to Master Rule 4 and then the change up of Master Rule 4, which did at a good period of time stretch out a lot of things. But a lot of stuff was not getting banned because it just made too much stuff broken. Um, so in the early aspects of it, you look at Clown Blade, which took advantage of a lot of the things that this deck expanded on was rank 4 spam, taking advantage of monsters who had the ability to absorb damage, and then laughing in your opponent's face when all these big monsters hit. Then that fall, you expand even more with the Performer Pals who were getting a major bump. of monsters at that time, because that's when Skullcrobat Joker was released. The the combination of, well, that was winter in summer. No, winter in autumn. Because autumn and winter. I'm sorry, I'm getting these mixed up. Because we got Performer Pal Pendulum Sorcerer, who pop cards on the field to help you get more cards for your scale. You had the combination of Lizard Draw and Gill Turtle, who Gill Turtle says when a pendulum monster is placed in the pendulum zone, you have to be Performer Pal, you can draw off of it. Then you have Lizard Draw, who can send himself from the pendulum zone to the graveyard, and no, who destroys himself and then draw a card for you. So your expanded of hand just helped there because you were pretty much correcting your hand at that point to make sure that everything you needed for your pendulum scale, which by the way could expand at this point, because that was at the point where pendulum scales for these types of decks expanded into the range of 1 or 2 to about 8 or 9, and you had a good variety of monsters to come in and help with that, especially for a Performer Pal. But Magician and Monkey Board didn't come till later, because Monkey Board was actually the expand of it as well. Because we can actually look at Monkey Board. Monkey Board scale change could easily change. If it was a 4, and it would be able to expand from 4, but you wanted it as a 6, so you'd always, no, as a 1, so you'd always put another Performer Pal in its place. But when this card was placed into the Pendulum Zone, oh, I get to search for a Performer Pal monster that's level 4 or lower. And then you could break your scales with the Pendulum Magician, and the Magician would be able to reset the whole situation there. Let's not also forget we had Plush Fire at that time, and Plush Fire was the one that said, if I'm destroyed, you get the special summon. And that was a big no-no at that time. So I remember them banning Plush Fire. They limited Skullcrobat Joker, Monkey Board, and I believe Magic Spectre Kieran. But Kieran was only in first of Odd Eyes in the Pendulum Magicians. So let's take a look at Odd Eyes at this point. Who Odd Eyes at the point was a monster who came out. No one really thought he was such a big issue. Well, when the span of the pendulum scale happened, that's where it whole changed, and then everything for the pendulum magicians started turning out, because then you had a scale of 1 to 8 on a pendulum scale in the amount of brokenness that came in the form of Skullcrobat Joker, who whenever I'm normal summoned, I can add a Performer Pal, Performer Pal, Odd Eyes, or Magician Pendulum monster from my deck to my hand. And that at that point was just, yeah, we're not gonna talk about how crazy that got, because even at that span of it, I think True King, True Draco, and stuff like that was also coming out, which was supposed to be the end all to this. Not to mention at that point we were still dealing with Monarch, but most of these decks easily got over those decks because Monarch still needed a good resource to actually use a lot of their spells and traps. They were citing in Beast. They were making Beast and Barkion. Yeah, Performer Mage, Performer Pal, and Pendulum Magician had that much of a range where Beast and Barkion could even be made in their decks. And not to mention, let's not talk about the big bird right here, Apex Avian, who also made a nice appearance because the pendulum scale stretched so far, you can summon multiple copies of Miss Valley Apex Avian and have ways to negate stuff. I wouldn't have been too surprised if people started dropping in Thunderbird, because Thunderbird's ability says, oh, when I'm bounced back through the effects of a card, especially a Miss Valley card, I can be special summoned again. And I'm not once per turn, so imagine that. Yeah, it's crazy. And that was also in the case because now you can look at it in the skills of you had Bimbuku in the Magic Spectres coming out and how broken Kieran was. Because Kieran said, oh, I don't have a pendulum effect. My monster effect is the reason why you should fear me. Because I can target a pendulum monster and a monster on your opponent's side of the field and bounce those cards back to hand. So with Kieran, you made your scale wide enough, you bounce Kieran back, and then you summon it again. That's literally what it was at that point. Till the emergency ban list hit everything. And I mean everything. Skullcrobat and Monkey Board were at 1. They hit Draco. The Draco engine had also came out at that point. So they had to hit a good portion of that because Draco Pepe was a thing. Yes, Draco Pepe, because Luster Pendulum said, hey, while I'm in the pendulum zone, you know that card over there in the other pendulum zone? Blow that up, and then you can search your deck for a card with the exact same name as the one I just helped you blow up in the other zone. So, talk about range, right? Range. Like, it was real crazy. Like, I'm not gonna hate on this deck because I played this deck, but I knew the impact of this deck when I know an impact. And literally, because of how stretched it was, at a point this archetype had to be completely stopped, which is why I can understand why Master Group 4 had to be the way it was. Um, which sucks for Synchros, Fusion, and Exceeds because those were the three that really got hit. Which is also funny because those were the ones that Pendulums took the most advantage of because of how they were able to massive summon. And the fact that you had defense, you had offense, defense, monster range in terms of special summon, unique spells and traps that incorporated in the lineup of monsters from Pendulum Magician, from Performer Mage all the way through to where even the pendulum setup itself was bananas. Not even gonna lie to you. It wasn't until they introduced the link format and the link format pretty much saying, okay, no to all of this. We need to put a stop to it. That's literally what happened in the time span. Um, and I mean, we have a large list of cards I have to honestly just talk into. Performer House, Performer Mage, Damage Juggler, Trick Clown, Hat Tricker, Plush Fire, what's that monster? Not Mary Kay. Performer Mage, Mirror Coat. Then we have, Mirror Wizard, or Mirror Mage. Oh, whichever one he is. Assault Halberd, Thousands Blades. And then we have all the performance pals. We have Pardnaga, Silver Claw, Lizard Draw, Gill Turtle, Pendulum Sorcerer, Skullcrow Bat Joker, Monkey Board, Odd Eyes Unicorn, because I was even stretched there. Their support card, Performer Pal Recasting, uh, which was pretty much send any number of performer piles in your hand back to the deck, shuffle, reveal any number of performer piles in your hand, shuffle back to the deck, draw that same number of cards, then plus one. Then you had Odd Eyes, and Odd Eyes wasn't alone, because Odd Eyes had the Magician Pendulum monsters in the forms of Pulse Magician, Dragon Pit Magician, Oath Dragon Magician, Wisdom Eye Magician, and Noble Magician. Then Apex Avion, just to help out. The Draco engine of Draco Luster, Draco Pendulum, Master Pendulum, Vector Pendulum, and the Luster Pendulum with their support card of Draco Face Off, Odd Eyes' fusion spell, Odd Eyes Fusion, and then all of the sporadics of Sky Iris, which was the field spell for Odd Eyes, Performer Pal, and Magician, and then Wavering Eyes, which had to immediately be banned because of how broken it was, and then Draco Face Off, which had to hit the limited status. Then the extra deck full of monsters ranging from 4 to 8 in terms of rank and exceed. Just for those, we have Trapeze Magician, Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon, Odd Eyes Rebellion Dragon, Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon. Um, who else in mind? Because there's two Odd Eyes dragons here. Yeah, I said Odd Eyes Rebellion. We had Master Pendulum, the Ascending Draco Slayer. We had Dynaster, Power the Mighty Draco Slayer. And then we have Ignister Providence, the Blasting Draco Slayer. And then all the types of other level rank 4s and stuff like that in the extra deck. On top of all the synchros and stuff you can put into the deck, because that's called range. And they had a lot of it. And also to forget Bimbuku, and then the other magicians, Astrograph Magician and Double Iris Magician, who later on got banned because of how broken they were. The on and off with Skullcrow Joker, who led to it being banned again. And then Magic Spectre, Unicorn, Karen. So at that period of time, I went straight from Pendulum and just went full monster out. I think I just built a whole bunch of stuff at that time from 2007 to 2018. Because at the end of 18, that's no to the summer of 18. Let's say the summer of 18. That's when, um, well, as we all know, these lovely ladies came out, the Sky Strikers. Um, Sky Strikers have been around for that much time. Because I want to say Dark Saviors was the end of was the summer. Yeah, it was the summer. Because they haven't been out that long. It's hasn't been a year, has it? No, it's been a year. Because Dark Saviors was at the end of 2017. The Exceed form, the Link format I know started in 2016. Because that's when Pendulum died off. Yeah, I'm right. And then we had the span of Pendulum. Now, the crazy thing about this, and just the whole span of Pendulum, of Link, it was supposed to kill off Exceed, and it didn't. I mean, Pendulum, and it didn't. It made a lot of decks struggle, which I'm not going to lie, I even had to struggle myself. And you can see that in a lot of videos that I made in that span of time. I think once the generic stuff came, we started incorporating a lot of the stuff for here and there. I think this is honestly still one of its biggest rising stars is, well, Sky Striker, which was pretty much you take one beautiful lolly and you make an entire archetype around her. And she has a pretty beast of an archetype around her. But her main gimmick was that if she can send herself to the graveyard, she can also summon a Sky Striker Link monster from the extra deck in her place in extra monster zone. The spells, for the most part, said you had to have no monster in your main monster zone for them to activate. If you have 3 or more spells in the graveyard, then they had additional effects. The crazy thing about those additional effects is all of them are completely broken depending on the situation, and many of them are beasts, which is why 3 out of them had to be hit, and 1 Link monster had to be hit because of how broken the synergy was. Nowadays, you can see them splashed in decks like Sky Striker Orcs, Sky Striker. I use Sky Striker in a lot of things actually. It just depends on how much of the engine you want to splash and how far of the engine you want to take to splash in it. Because I've seen a lot of it splash. Like, don't let the amount of monsters fool you, because this deck can get really nasty if you can. And it's getting more support too, because they gave another monster. Rosa is coming out soon, and she's going to spice the deck, and not to mention their other Link monster. And she'll be dark, so there's been there, and just the whole gimmicks of them, because you have draw power, and search power, in Sky Striker Engage. You had control in the form of Widow Anchor. You had a token maker in the form of what is this called? Hornet Drone. And then you had not only protection for your spells, but reuse of your Sky Striker spells. Although the consequence of them being banished wasn't too much a problem because, well, you had multi-roll to help you use a lot of them. Looking at the bases, then you also had Kigari, who had the ability to add those cards back to your deck from your graveyard, and then from your graveyard back to your hand, and then you can just reuse a lot of them. It wasn't too much potent at the time it came out because a lot of these cards were very expensive at the time. I did break from the deck, giving it a good year, and then picked it right back up for very cheap, but still very useful. And then, of course, we cannot forget about the rising star of the Pendulum format. But the Link format. But before we do get there, let's still continue to talk about Sky Strikers and go down the list of Sky Strikers. We have Sky Striker Ace Ray. We have, of course, all the traps in the form, because everything's moving, right? I mean, all the spells in the forms of Engage, Widow Anchor, Multi-Roll, Hornet Drone, Area Zero, Kagari, Shizuku, Hayate, Kina, Jamming Wave, Afterburner, Eagle Booster, Shark Cannon, and Hercules Base. Now we move on to one of the bigger rising stars, thanks to, well, insert structure deck here, and they ain't changing it too soon, guys, because structure deck's going to have some really boss cards in it. We're talking about the Salamangreat, and when the Salamangreat were first noted, they're in the anime. They came to us via Soul Burner. There were a couple of cards in the set prior to Soul Burner, but most of them got reprinted in Soul Burner. And then the rest of their support cards were in it, including the reprint of the common Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs, which is most of the reason why this destruction deck was as high as it was. High as it was after then, and then still kind of high as it is because of the Ash Blossom, even though Ash Blossom dropped because she did get in the reprint. Dual Devastators. This deck did get a lot of its updated support because it has Phoenix, who blows up the field, and then a lot of search and a lot of just recollection. I'd love to go back to this deck. I honestly still have pieces of it still together, but at this current time, nah, I think I'm just gonna keep it to where it is, just as it is. Um, it's pretty much the equivalent of a Cyverse deck that actually has some flow to it. Because when the Cyverse archetype did get introduced, it wasn't a bad archetype. It was just a regular archetype. Well, typing, honestly, I should say, because we have the Cyverse monster type. But as the type itself drilled down, there was, the generic beat for Cyverse that used World Chalice and stuff like that when they came out. But as time grew over, a lot of people wanted to go into variations of the deck itself that grew upon what was just looked as what can we build from something good? Then when they announced that this was getting printed, a lot of people were very excited because it was an archetype that flowed. We hadn't seen that much flow literally, I think, since Orcs was coming out. It had a bit of its own flow. You had Sky Striker Ace was had its flow. The World Challenge was still good. And you just had a lot of those builds up from there. And then a lot of the feature stuff coming. And it's still Pendulum. But I think for the most part, I enjoyed this just because it was another deck that was tier. It had its range, and you can build off of it. And it's still pretty good for the most part. It's not as tier as it used to be, but a lot of people still enjoy the Salamangreat. So yeah, Salamangreat, Jackal, we have Gazelle, Spiny, what is it, Wall of the Salamangreat, a Fusion of Fire, Salamangreat Circle, Salamangreat Sanctuary, Salamangreat Gift, Salamangreat Rage, Salamangreat Roar, and in their extra deck monsters, which that ranges itself, Salamangreat Violet Chimera, Salamangreat Heart Leo, Salamangreat Barrel Lynx, Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf, Salamangreat Mirage Stalio, in just the overwhelming amounts of them. I didn't include Phoenix because I literally stopped after the structure deck. And I didn't pick up anything after then. But that's pretty much just the expand of everything for here, guys. From 2006, the end of 2016 all the way till now. The only decks, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the span of it. The only two decks I haven't included, but I've included earlier, well, one of the two, well, I have a lot of other decks that I want to include, but I have a different period of time I'm going to talk about them. But I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching the three-parters. I hope you guys enjoyed. They're probably long videos. The uploads are going to be very short, trust me. But thank you guys so much for watching, as I did take the chance to go through the decade of it. And I'll have my video up for everything for you guys to see. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hitting the 10 years, you guys. Excited about it, I guess. It's on its own span. But thanks everybody for watching. I'll catch you guys next time. Enjoy the holidays, and HBJ signing out. Take care.